Morning, everybody. How's it going? Happy Monday. We are back for a Facebook Live interview, The Voices in Real Estate. The live interview is for viewers in the real estate industry to learn and become better real estate agents. Within Remax, we believe in strengthening numbers where people are open to share their experiences and knowledge with others so Remax agents and the rest of the industry can better serve our clients. Depending on where you are in Canada, most of us have been in quarantine for about a month now. Business is definitely not usual. A lot of us have now passed the stage of fear and starting to adjust to this new norm. The corona pandemic, even more than some of the recessions in the past, brought into stark relief our individual and collective vulnerability. This initial assessment is not fictional. Our vulnerability is a fact. It is a truth, but it's not the whole truth. On the other side of vulnerability is the truth of our deep resilience. Today, we want to focus on how we can individually and collectively be leading the way when this period of uncertainty comes to an end. It is truly a time for resilience. Our special guest today is Elton Ash, our Executive Vice President of Remax of Western Canada. So let me get him on the screen here. Hey, Elton, how's it going?
Good morning, Kingsley. It's going good. How are you today?
I'm good. How have you been?
Well, it's been an interesting period of time working remotely here from my home office, as you can see in the background. But I'm very fortunate to have this office here in my home so that I can pretty much work as though, it's kind of a normal day, although they're long days going, it seems.
They are really long days, of course. So maybe perhaps give the viewers, because not everyone that's probably looking at this live interview are Remax people. So maybe give people, introduction of yourself, let them know a little bit more about who Elton is.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Of course, I can give you the whole long version, the Reader's Digest version. Who grew up in Saskatchewan on the family farm. Got into real estate 40 years ago, which is hard to believe. You look back that long. In Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, joined an independent firm at the time, which was the #1 company in the city, and then joined Remax in 1984 when it was still, what's a Remax? No one had really heard of us. There was only 185 sales associates in all of Western Canada back then. And then over the years, bought a franchise in Penticton, British Columbia in 1990, built it up to be a very profitable business operation, then sold it in 94 and started with the regional office as a broker, as a director of broker services, and then became the regional vice president in 2000. For a period of time in the 98 to 2000 period, I actually worked out of Denver with Remax LLC. As director of Remax Commercial for North America, and then been focused on the region since 2000, and that's sort of my life history in real estate.
Home is always in Canada, I see.
Yeah.
Awesome. So maybe perhaps just what have you been doing the last couple of weeks? I mean, this is going on for a month, a little more than a month, depending on where you are. So how do you keep yourself physically and mentally active?
Well, I really haven't strayed far from my typical regime. I'm fortunate to have a home gym down in my basement, so I work out, and upper body workout movement is critical to keeping stress in check. And it has been a stressful period of time over the last 4 weeks since we closed the office in mid-March, working with consumers, working with membership, broker owners, sales associates. You know, a lot of people have been very concerned emotionally, stressed out about their own business, where the economy is going to be going. And so it's critical to keep a balance at this point in time. And that's where, you know, working out, I think, is important for everyone, to get the heart rate up, get your upper body movement going, and it helps relieve, you know, all that stress that can build up through your body. And so it just helps get a good night's sleep, maintain your diet. And so it's, yeah, it's just kind of, and keeping as normal a regime as possible. And when I finished breakfast with Jane and head to the office, instead of jumping into the car and, you know, drive, I live reasonably close to the office, so it's only 2.5 kilometers. But instead of driving 2.5 kilometers, I walk 34 feet to the office.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome. Awesome. I mean, it's good to have a routine, right? Because by the time we get out of this, you don't want to reboot your whole system into going back into it. So it's good to just have a consistent, steady routine throughout this time. So once things are better, or once things go back to relatively normal, your transition period, it doesn't take that long to go back into it.
Yeah.
So yeah. So you've been doing this, or you've been in the real estate industry for 40 years.
Yeah.
And obviously you've been through a few recessions here and there. So how is this one different or similar in any sense compared to the ones in the past?
Well, you know, when I got started in real estate in 1980, 81, and that was probably the worst recession that Canada experienced since the Great Depression. And those of us that were around will remember interest rates at 21%, you know, payout penalties on mortgages of $25,000. I mean, it was a complete disaster as far as the real estate industry was concerned, and for the Canadian economy. And so when I got started in real estate, of course, I didn't know any different. It was just head down, work hard. And then the next major recession for the country was 1990. And, you know, that's when I bought the office in Penticton. My timing for doing things has always been kind of strange, really. But again, you know, I learned some valuable lessons through that. And then we had the dot-com burst in 99 and 2000, and how that affected the world economy, especially here in North America. Yeah, and then 2009, the Great Recession, of which Canada really didn't participate in, thankfully. I mean, we had 4 months of a kind of a tough real estate market, but after that, it took off again. And now here we are. So, and then in that period of time, we had 3 sort of more minor economic depressions. So it's, I've certainly experienced them from a business perspective. You know, and when we look at what's similar, well, people panic. You know, there's fear, you know, uncertainty, what will happen next. I mean, that's common reaction when these sorts of things come along. Consumer confidence naturally is affected greatly, and that affects our business in the real estate industry. Interest rates always get affected. But then we look at what's the differences. And of course, each sort of economic cycle does have its own unique characteristics. But I think the biggest difference with this one is what I call the great pause, really. We saw a very quick wind down of the overall general economy, which of course has affected real estate, but real estate has been really affected differently than at any other down cycle that we've seen in the past. I had the, I suppose, privilege of being able this morning to sit in on TD Economics and a webinar that they had in looking at the world focus, narrowing it down to North America and then to Canada. And that the economists certainly have a similar point of view as to how this whole recession has wound down relatively quickly, you know, from an economic point of view, but how as we come out, it's going to wind up fairly quickly as well. And of course, the base to that, this is what makes it different, is that it's not economically driven. It's driven by a health issue, which has been, you know, devastating around the world, and very, even though it's been worldwide, certain countries have been much greater affected. You look at Italy, Spain, what the UK and now the US are going through, Canada, through, I think, strong health leadership. We have certainly flattened the curve more along the South Korea example that's being used, and that we will see this certainly have a positive effect to us economically. And so as we kind of go through this difference that we've seen to other recessions, I think there's huge opportunity here for the real estate industry as well. And the fact that where we have seen our membership really get involved with technology, using the virtual tours, dealing the social distancing that's in place, but using all the technological tools that are there. And we know of a number of instances now where people have bought homes completely virtually, and that in the long term, this is a great advantage for us, and especially for our Remax membership, who are really embracing this stuff, so that our consumer and customer experience down the road is going to be far different, but better.
Right. And wow, so it seems like every decade or so, because you mentioned 81 and then the 90
Yeah.
and then the dot-com days and the 2009, they're all kind of like recession or down tougher markets in general. So it seems like this is just a normal time. It's once every decade kind of thing,
Everything
right?
is cyclical, and I had a long-term acquaintance back when I was in the cattle business years ago, Don Cormie, who was the principal owner of Principal Group out of Edmonton. He owned Tomahawk Ranches, and he hired, when he was in business with Principal Group, which went down in one of our recessions, but he hired an economist who studied world cycles since the times of the Egyptians, 4000 BC. And he graphed all that, and was really interesting when you look at all these thousands of years, how the world has continued to have these 3, 7, and 11-year cycles consistently. And so that's, and we had the inverted bond yield back in October. There was going to be, which has been an almost 99.9% predictor of recessions. And people are saying, well, what could cause a recession? This is back in October. Now here we are. And so you can never predict when they're going to happen. You don't know what's going to cause them, but they are a normal cycle of life and business.
Right. So, and the ones that adapt to these during these tougher times and make changes to their business usually come out, and they look at it as an opportunity, coming out as a better place afterwards too. And obviously within Remax, there's a lot of agents that's been with us for decades who's, I can't say they're used to it, but they know what to do or what to expect. During the good times, they should be saving up the money, and during the bad times, they adjust their business, right?
Yeah, and it's the old saying, get me through this recession. I promise I won't get this at all away in the next one. But anyway, that's the way it is.
Yeah, it is the way it is. And there's a famous quote that, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. And how should an agent then prepare him or herself to be in a position for growth once this is over then?
Well, certainly, as I look back over my 40 years of experience and the 4 major recessions and 3 economic slowdowns I've gone through, there's a specific formula, frame of mind, or attitude that you really that works every time. And I have seen this consistently over the years. And when you look at like our founder, Dave Linegar, and his thoughts on how you survive and get through these down times better than when you entered into, and it is true for all businesses, that there are 9 basic points that you rely on to get you through that. And so the first one is you have to be aggressive. You can't sit on the sidelines and wait for something to get better or improve and wait for somebody else to do something. You have to really take control, and you have to resist the tendency to sort of be defensive. And you see this in hockey. I mean, Canada's national sport. When a team gets in the lead, and especially if they go up 3 or 4 goals in the third period, I mean, you get worried because the team has a tendency to become defensive. to start to back off, and suddenly there's a goal, and then a second goal, and then the third goal, and they usually happen in relatively quick succession before the team starts to react again and understand, and the coaching get them, okay, guys, we got to get aggressive again here. And so there's this natural human tendency to just sort of turtle, if you like. Well, you can't do that. You've got to remain aggressive. The next point, of course, is people have a tendency to, in this defensive mode that they get into, to protect their turf. And you know, you've worked hard over the years, you've developed your customer base, and got it to a point that it is now, you know, generating great business for you. Well, then people start to, you know, again, it's this tendency to play defense and start to, you know, sit back, when again, you've got to get out there and be aggressive and continue to build that business and stay in touch with that base of customers that have, you know, that have you've built your business around. And then of course, sustaining promotional activity. And it's interesting how you see businesses, and realtors are no different, we're no different, in that when business is good, times are good, you're spending all kinds of money because I guess you got it naturally. Your revenue levels are high, and so you're pumping it back into the business. And then when the cycle turns and business starts to slow, right away you start to pull, okay, well, where can I cut expenses? Well, the worst place to cut expenses is in promotional activity. I mean, what you should actually be doing when times are good is pulling back from the promotional activity, putting that money aside for when you know that the next down cycle is going to come, and then reinvest that money to keep your business going. And so it really ends up being critical that your promotional activities got to increase during a down cycle. And then of course, developing personal accountability, another point here, and with your planning and your execution. Using your coach, using your broker owner, your office manager, using your spouse to help you, you know, have them hold you accountable to your roadmap, because then you'll continue to work your plan as well, and verbalize and communicate those targets. And it perhaps will be a smaller target or it was the year before, but you still have those goals and targets in place, and you remain accountable to those. And then create new products and improve existing ones. And this is where we've really seen our membership in the last few weeks really get involved with their use of technology, which I think is critical right now. Again, you can't sit back, you've got to learn, you've got to use these new tools, incorporate them, you know, work with your broker owner and office manager, your coach, and just kind of keep honing those specific tools. That'll give you the edge over the competition. And then of course, you have to accelerate communication. I mean, you have to engage people. Again, people, and we've really seen this more so in this particular crisis down cycle that we're going through, is because it's an unknown. I mean, the adjective unprecedented has been overworked and overused, but it truly is. I mean, this is something that people really feel out of control about. And so communication becomes absolutely paramount. And so talking to your past clients, your spheres of influence, you know, whether that's on the good old phone, text, email, I would suggest a combination of it. But again, that is an important point, that there can never be too much communication. And you'll get overwhelming loyalty and dedication from your customers and clients when you do that. And then of course, focusing on education is another point that you really have to be aware of at times like this, which I've touched on already, but it's important that, and we know the statistics, those that learn more earn more. And that this is an ideal time to take a designation course, to you know, learn other techniques, other technologies that you can incorporate. So do that. And of course, as any business, another great point is you have to prioritize your business expenses. You know, you may have planned this year to buy a new car, you know, and you don't want, even when things start to turn, you don't want to be doing that, right? You want to be investing what cash you do have into your business, so that there's real ROI on it, return on investment. And that becomes critical for any business, is you have to look at how you're prioritizing those expenses. And then I think the last point, the ninth point here, which is absolutely most critical, which is focus on growth. Again, that you look at the aggressive, my first point, or protect your turf, my second point. I mean, it all comes back to focusing on growth, because no matter what else is going on around you, you've got to do that. And part of that growth is maintaining a positive attitude, because people are hearing doom and gloom. And one of the highlights, I think, of most people's days here in British Columbia is when Dr. Bonnie Henry comes on and does her briefing, because her attitude is positive, it's calm, and it's reassuring. And so when you look at focusing on growth, those are the kind of things that you have to be displaying as well. And so that those around you are happy to hear from you and see you, because you're exhibiting that positive attitude and that you're focusing on what's coming next and growth. So, and these 9 points were as valid in 1981 during our big crash, the Great Recession in 2009. They're the constants of any business to get through a cycle like this.
Right. It's interesting how we always talk about leadership these days, right? And in order to be a leader, leader doesn't mean you have to be a leader for hundreds of people or anything like that. Leader is just could be being one of the best in the industry. And in order to continue to be a leader, you need to continue to do things more and better than the competition itself. And like you said, you mentioned, these are times that you have to invest your own time, your effort, and if you have savings from the past, put it in there, educate yourself, because ultimately what real estate agents offer to their clients is knowledge and experience. And it's the product itself, it's most of the time they don't own it themselves, right? So these are really critical times where you up your game in terms of what you can offer to your clients. So talking about that, yeah, go ahead.
We're a service industry paid on performance, and that performance you measure in terms of the commissions that you earn, the people that you help. It ultimately gets boiled down to that dollar, which and I learned from Zig Ziglar years ago that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Well, I think most of, we're ready today, and for a number, the teacher is appearing, and we're building on this so that when we come out the other end, we'll all be stronger for it.
Exactly. Actually, interesting point, a little bit off topic. You mentioned Dr. Bonnie Henry. For those viewers here who's into shoes, apparently she's got really good shoes that she wears every day. And I think the company name is called Furlock. They're made in Vancouver, Canadian-made shoes. So for those that are interested in shoes, go check that out.
Yeah, Furlock shoes.
And so a lot of agents nowadays they're confused, right? And that's because they're in fear, they're confused, and they want to seek areas and places for help. And where can they obtain that? We talked about training, we talked about getting guidance from people. Where can they find that help to get through this period?
Yeah, and there's a huge amount of resources that are out there, and when we look at just what we provide as the Remax organization to our membership, there's so much there. It's hard to really sort it all out. But there's a couple things I really would like people to take advantage of, and there's the Remax University webinars that are there's a schedule posted on the Friday week prior, to what's going on the following week. Adam Contos has just done a tremendous job. He's got his Monday and Thursday post podcast that he does. And there's been a lot of concern about balance. And Adam's Mind Body Business podcast on Thursday is a tremendous resource for people to take advantage of. And you don't have to be with Remax, for those of you who are viewing this not with Remax. It is a public podcast, and where each week he's talking about life balance, and how you have to, at this point in time, take time for yourself, take time for your family, and really understand how to get through this in a good, healthy mental state. And so it's a tremendous resource there. We've got the Good Morning with Remax Tuesday mornings with Nick Bailey, where he's been interviewing people that are related to the real estate industry and those that aren't, again, about tools and services that are available for you. And that's on the We Are Remax channel that's out there in Facebook. Kingsley, we got your podcast, your Facebook Live stuff that you're doing, and your postings. Got Wade Patterson's Remax Hustle podcast that he's doing. Karan Stokes, who's in Denver, is a broker owner. He's been doing Agent Voice on Fridays. Noel has been doing Level Up training stuff each week. We've got the Photify app that you can take advantage of. The Remax approved suppliers are providing special deals. There's a Zoom special deal for Remax associates right now. It's just, the list goes on and on. Even getting involved with the Bouge beta that's available for Western Canada, because now you can load your database into it and it'll stay there as the Bouge goes live. The work that you've done to help it develop won't be lost. It'll all be there. So there's just a tremendous number of resources. Remax.ca, where we've been posting on the blog consumer related information with COVID-19 to leverage that stuff. And so there's just a huge number of resources there.
There is, and you can always leverage. You mentioned the blog. We do have like COVID stuff or statistical stuff where you can share with your clients, because leverage that kind of information, because that's what your clients are looking for these days. And statistically, I mean, I think it was the second week or third week when we were going through this, even though clients are not looking for particular listings these days, but they're looking for real estate information to educate themselves. And this is a really huge opportunity for real estate agents to provide that to them. And, just as a reminder that you are the resource, you're the area for resources in terms of real estate. So when we come out of this, they'll ask you questions.
Yeah, and the Canadian Real Estate Association has posted some great information for business resources that you could pass on to other business people and make use yourself, for that matter. And many of the provincial associations are also doing that. So there's just, again, just use that, because your customers and clients, your prospective home shoppers, home buyers and sellers are, and I mentioned this in the 9 points, communication, are so thirsty for knowledge. We've seen what was originally fear and panic in society, so to speak, the toilet paper run that we saw a few weeks ago. That is now pretty much dissipated, so that people are truly looking for information as to how do they deal with the issue. It's a perfect time just to call someone and say, hey, how are you? Been thinking about you. And you may have sold them a house 5 years ago, or just know them through a social connection, through school or church, you name it, sort of thing. It's so critical now just to reach out and be kind, be caring, and be there for people. They truly appreciate it.
Just be a good person. That was the time to be a real good person, right? It's more shifting from the sales mindset to the service mindset overall, right? And that's what the approach should be, is to help people and just to be a leader in your own community, right? It's not that difficult. You just have to take that initiative out of your comfort. For a lot of people, it might be out of their comfort zone to even just pick up the phone and call people. But these are times to do it, because once this goes back to normal, you're at your daily hustle, your daily routines of being out there. You probably don't have just as much time to do these things.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
Well, I think, though, there'll be some good habits developed out of this. As realtors, we're naturally social people. Yeah, we have to be. It's part of our DNA makeup to be successful in this business. But I really believe, and I saw this after the fire we had in Kelowna 14 years ago, where we lost our home, and how the social contacts, our neighbors that we had at that time, how we really came together to help each other at that point. And this is very similar, of course, and that those habits really continued thereafter. It's been what was a very negative to us personally at that time turned out to be a long-term positive, just as this will.
Right, right. So we're coming to a point of our interview now. I got to ask the question of Elton's Remax hustle tip. Usually, the tip itself, it's something unique that that you want to share with our viewers here. So, what would be the Elton Remax hustle tip?
Well, I don't know if it's so much a Remax hustle tip, so much as it's about leadership. And mentioned a little bit earlier, Kingsley, about how we are all individual leaders, and we truly are. Whether that's, of course, within our families, our neighborhood, our community, and our client list, our spheres of influence, they look to you as for information and true leadership. So there's just 5 points I want to leave with the thought about leadership. And number one is step up and be there. Be there for your family, your clients, and your community, because they're looking for that. Number two, be optimistic. Be positive. Be aware that there are good things through this. Three is be calm. Don't we all sense panic, we all sense fear, but we have to overcome that. We have to override that within ourselves and at least give, like the proverbial duck, swimming calmly on the surface but paddling like crazy below surface. Just be calm and exude that confidence, and of course be straight with people. That's all that they want to hear are the facts. And sometimes it's going to be a little negative, but just be straight with people. They will respect that greatly. And then number 5, talked about it already, is communicate, communicate, communicate. By keeping those 5 things at the forefront, you're going to be truly appreciated, and you will come out of this all the better for it.
Awesome. Thank you. Those are really good tips. So I think we're coming to an end here, and I can't really take a look at the questions because there's a lot of people typing in there.
There was a couple questions I saw here on the side, Kingsley.
Yeah.
I thought if it's okay with you, I just thought I would address. And one question I think is really important, and that's specifically about Alberta and how, of course, the oil pricing resource crash that we've seen now coming into our 6th year, and how Alberta has really been suffering economically, and how the provincial economy there, and then the COVID-19 kind of piling on, so there's this double negative effect going on. I think it's important that you have to kind of keep them separated. Certainly, the oil resource factor, and with the Russians and the Arab states having their price war, has really hurt oil pricing. And in fact, today, it's like credit, Alberta's to pay people to take their oil. It is a certain economic business reality that will still exist once the COVID crisis is over. But by taking the pause that the COVID issue is providing at this point in time, now is really the time to hone those skills, as we've been talking about, so that when we come through this and we're back in Alberta, you're still going to have the oil price thing, unfortunately. But I think to really leverage some of this stuff right now is actually going to help you deal with the economic issues that are going on in Alberta, and to a lesser extent Saskatchewan. But I think it's just a priority to focus on these things right now, no matter what's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, even within the Remax system, some of the best real estate individuals and teams are from Alberta, right? And for those that feel that they're struggling in a way in Alberta, they can always, and a lot of Remax agents are willing to share their success stories. So ask the people that are successful, even in down markets. So that's the power of a brand itself, right? And You just have to take the initiative to reach out and ask the question, and help will come along the way. So.
Exactly. And leveraging the brand is, I mean, it's a true partnership. And as Brian Buffini has said, using the 800-pound gorilla to your advantage. Now is the time. Your own local brand is there, of course. You've worked hard at it, but really now incorporating the Remax brand, because we know, and Elaine Langout is, through all the testing that we've done over the years, Reader's Digest most trusted brand here a couple of years ago. People do trust the brand, and they trust you as sales associates and broker owners. So it's that combination right now that's more critical than at any other time.
Right. Exactly. So we're coming to an end here, and this live session will be recorded and hosted on Remax of Western Canada Facebook page. You're more than welcome to share it. Anybody that's looking at this live right now, and if you have any questions, feel free to type in at the comments below. Elton, myself, Roy, Derek, Wade, and the rest of the crew here at Remax of Western Canada is more than happy to help you out with any questions that you've got. So thank you, Elton, and we wish everybody success during these times, and all the best. Okay.
Thank you. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye now.